Another night of shadows and dreams with Uncle Grim. Let the darkness be a comfort, not a fear. And I'm here to tell you a story as the world outside sleeps. Tonight's tale. It's a dark journey in the city of Gotham, a whisper of a world that almost was, a city left to its own devices. It's a ghost story, you see, but the ghost is a hero who was never born. Before we wander down that forgotten alleyway, do an old storyteller a favor. Gently tap that like button. And if you enjoy these late night whispers, consider subscribing. It lets me know you're out there, listening in the dark. And tell me, where in the world are you listening from tonight? Let me know in the comments. It's comforting to know whose corners of the world these shadows are reaching. Now, get comfortable. Close your eyes and listen. Let's talk about a place you know, a city of stone and secrets. Let's talk about Gotham, if it never had a Batman. Our story begins, as all Gotham stories do, with the rain. Not a cleansing rain, never that. This is Gotham's rain. It's a greasy, tired drizzle that doesn't wash the streets, but merely rearranges the filth. It slicks the cobblestones in Crime Alley with a sheen of oily rainbows, and drums a mournful, muffled beat against the leaded glass of Wayne Tower, a black monolith that pierces the bruised purple sky like a tombstone for a city already dead. Inside that tower, 30 stories up, a man stands before the glass. He isn't a symbol. He isn't a specter of vengeance. He is just Bruce Wayne. And he has been for 20 years. He was just a boy, but in his mind he fails them again every single day by doing nothing. He is a ghost in his own life, haunting the vast, empty rooms of a fortune he doesn't want, and a name he can't escape. His days are a blur of board meetings he attends via video link, his face a mask of bored indifference, and his nights are long, sleepless affairs, fueled by expensive brandy and the silent company of his butler, Alfred Pennyworth. Alfred, whose face is a roadmap of worry, tries. He suggests philanthropy, purpose, travel, anything. But Bruce just stares out at the city, at the million blinking lights that look like the dying embers of a fire, and says nothing. The fire inside him went out a long time ago. Down below, in the belly of the beast, Detective James Gordon stands in a different kind of rain. He's hunched under the leaking awning of a pawn shop, the collar of his trench coat turned up against the chill. The neon sign above him flickers, casting his haggard face in a sickly red glow. Honest Abe's, it says, but the Abe's is dark. Nothing in this part of town has been honest for a long, long time. Gordon is looking at a body, a city councilman named Miller, a man who had been making some noise about sanitation contracts and their ties to the Falcone crime family. Now he's just another piece of Gotham's refuse, lying face down in an overflowing gutter, 3 bullets in the back of his head. Gordon's partner, Harvey Bullock, a man whose cynicism is so profound it's almost a physical presence, takes a long drag from his cigar. The smoke mingles with the steam rising from a nearby sewer grate. Falcone's sending a message. Bullock grunts, not even bothering to look too closely at the scene. Tells you not to sniff around the garbage cans. You don't sniff around the garbage cans. Simple. Gordon clenches his jaw. He can taste the bitter coffee he's been drinking all night, the taste of futility. He was a public servant, Harvey. He was trying to do the right thing. Bullock just shrugs, a heavy, final gesture. Yeah, well, this is what the right thing gets you in Gotham. A pine box and a few lines in tomorrow's paper, right next to the racing results. Gordon knows he's right. He'll write the report, he'll file it, and it will disappear into a mountain of other unsolved cases, a testament to the city's apathy. The Gotham City Police Department isn't a shield, it's a sieve. Every cop worth his salt is either on the take or has been ground down into a fine powder of despair, just like him. He came here 10 years ago, a young detective from Chicago, with a pregnant wife and a heart full of ideals. Now his wife has left, taking their daughter with her to a place where the sun actually shines, and his heart is just a tired muscle, pumping blood through a body that's forgotten what it feels like to hope. In a brightly lit office that seems to exist in a different universe from the grimy street below, District Attorney Harvey Dent paces like a caged tiger. He's the city's last great hope, the White Knight, the papers have dubbed him. His face is sharp, handsome, his suit immaculate. He's everything Gotham isn't, clean, orderly, driven by a ferocious belief in the law. But the law is a complicated, delicate thing, and Gotham is a sledgehammer. He's on the phone, his voice a low, intense hiss. I don't care what promises Maroney made you, Your Honor. The evidence is solid. We have him on racketeering, extortion, witness tampering. There's a pause. Dent's knuckles turn white as he grips the receiver. What do you mean the witness recanted? He was in protective custody. Another pause, longer this time. The handsome mask on Dent's face begins to crack. A muscle twitches in his jaw. I see. Yes, I understand. A clerical error. He hangs up the phone, not slamming it down, but placing it very, very gently back in its cradle, an act of almost terrifying control. He walks to the window and looks out, his own reflection superimposed over the sprawling, diseased city. He sees the twin pillars of organized crime that hold this city captive, the old money, the brutal tradition of Carmine, the Roman Falcone, and the new breed, the violent, unpredictable ambition of Sal Maroney. He's trying to fight a two-headed hydra with a gavel and a law book. Every time he cuts off a head, 2 more grow in its place, fed by the city's endless corruption. He feels a familiar, cold fury coiling in his gut. He reaches into his pocket and pulls out a coin, a special coin. A 2-headed silver dollar his father gave him. He flips it. The silver disc flashing in the office light. He catches it. slaps it onto the back of his wrist. He doesn't look. He doesn't need to. He makes his own luck. But even he is starting to wonder how long that luck can possibly last. The city festers. Without a shadow to fear, the predators grow bold. The Red Hood Gang, a loose coalition of armed robbers known for their theatricality and their signature crimson masks, becomes something more. They aren't just hitting banks and jewelry stores anymore. They're an institution, a symbol of chaos. They represent the idea that anyone can put on a mask and take what they want. Their leader is a mystery, a ghost who plans their heists with meticulous, genius-level detail. Tonight, their target is the Ace Chemicals processing plant on the industrial outskirts of the city. A place of towering smokestacks that belch black clouds into the sky. A labyrinth of pipes and vats filled with a witch's brew of volatile compounds. It's a heist, but it's also a statement. The plan is perfect, except for one variable they didn't account for. James Gordon. He'd gotten a tip. A whisper from a low-level informant who owed him a favor. He didn't have time to get backup. Not real backup he could trust anyway. So he went alone, his service revolver feeling woefully small in his hand. He arrives to the sound of alarms blaring, a frantic, useless scream swallowed by the factory's industrial roar. He sees them, a dozen figures in red hoods, moving with practiced efficiency. And he sees their leader, standing on a catwalk, high above a churning vat of bright green chemicals. The leader is different. He's wearing a tuxedo under his helmet, a touch of the absurd that makes him all the more unsettling. Gordon shouts, his voice hoarse. "GCPD, freeze!" The figures turn, and the air is filled with the deafening crack of gunfire. Gordon dives behind a stack of barrels, bullets sparking off the metal around him. He's pinned down, outmanned, outgunned. It's a suicide mission. He knows it, but he can't back down. It's not in him. He fires back, a desperate, hopeless defense. High above, the leader in the tuxedo just watches, a conductor overseeing his chaotic orchestra. Then, something goes wrong. A stray bullet from one of his own men ricochets off a steel girder and strikes the catwalk near the leader's feet. He stumbles, his arms windmilling. For a single horrifying moment, he teeters on the edge. Gordon sees his eyes through the mask's openings, wide with shock. Then he falls. A long, silent drop, ending with a sickening splash in the vat of glowing green acid. There's a moment of stunned silence, broken only by the hum of the factory and the dying wail of the alarm. The remaining gang members, their leader gone, lose their nerve. They scatter like rats, melting back into the city's shadows. Gordon, breathing heavily, slowly stands up. He walks to the edge of the vat and peers in. The surface bubbles and froths, green and impossibly vibrant. There's no sign of a body. Nothing. He just stares, a cold dread washing over him. He doesn't know it yet, but he hasn't just witnessed an accident. He has witnessed a birth, a baptism in chemicals and madness. The city's greatest joke is about to be told, and no one, absolutely no one, is going to be laughing. Weeks turn into months. The Ace Chemicals incident is written off as an industrial accident. The Red Hood gang splinters, its leaderless factions squabbling over territory. In the power vacuum, a new player begins to consolidate his power. Oswald Cobblepot, a man of unfortunate looks but preternatural cunning, has been a lieutenant in the Falcone family for years, dismissed as little more than an errand boy. But Oswald is an observer. He sees the weaknesses in the old ways. Falcone is a dinosaur, ruling through fear and tradition. Oswald believes in something more efficient, ruthless, corporate-style expansion. He begins quietly absorbing the Red Hood remnants, making inroads into the shipping unions at the docks, and using new technology to streamline his criminal enterprises. He's building an empire right under Falcone's nose, and the old man is too arrogant to see it. Oswald doesn't have a flashy moniker yet. To his underlings, he's just the Penguin, a mocking nickname for his waddling gait and beak-like nose. In a cluttered, dimly lit apartment in the Narrows, the city's sprawling, lawless slum. A different kind of mind is at work. Edward Nigma is a forensic scientist for the GCPD. A brilliant man trapped in a system that has no use for brilliance. He sees the patterns everyone else misses. He sees the invisible threads connecting the councilman's murder to the Falcone family, the doctored evidence in the Maroney case, the paid-off cops who signed the Ace Chemicals report. He sees it all. A grand, beautiful, terrifying puzzle. And it's driving him mad. He surrounds himself with riddles and logic problems, the only things that make sense in a city governed by chaos. He leaves anonymous tips for the DA's office, cryptic clues wrapped in riddles, trying to force them to see what he sees. But they're dismissed as the ravings of a crank. His frustration curdles into a toxic superiority complex. If they can't solve his riddles, they're not worthy of the truth. He starts to think of himself as an intellectual guardian, the only one smart enough to truly understand Gotham. The idea of a grander game begins to form in his mind. A game where he makes the rules, where the entire city is his chessboard, and its citizens are his pawns. He just needs the right opponent. But in a city without a great detective, his genius has nowhere to go but inward, where it twists and metastasizes. Life, or the Gotham equivalent of it, goes on. The seasons change, but the mood doesn't. The greasy rain of autumn gives way to the biting, sleet-filled winds of winter. The city hunches its shoulders against the cold, a miserable beast waiting for a spring that never seems to come. And then, one night, something changes. A new piece appears on the board. It starts as a rumor, a whisper among street-level thugs and pushers. Talk of a new ghost, a new boogeyman haunting the alleyways. But this isn't a man in a bat suit. This is something far more grounded, and in a way, far more terrifying. They call him the Watchman. No one knows his real name or where he came from. Some say he's an ex-cop from the Narrows, a man whose family was caught in the crossfire of a mob war. Others say he's a dishonorably discharged soldier. Truth is irrelevant. What matters are his methods. He doesn't glide from the rooftops. He stalks the sewers and the fire escapes. He doesn't use non-lethal gadgets. He uses a rusty pipe, a shard of glass, a combat knife. And he doesn't leave his victims for the police. He leaves them for the coroner. The first body is found hanging from a meat hook in the back of a butcher shop controlled by the Maroney family. The victim is a known enforcer, a man with a rap sheet as long as his arm. His throat has been cut from ear to ear. Pinned to his chest is a simple, handwritten note. You are being watched. A week later, 2 more of Maroney's men are found in a burning car by the docks. They've been shot, execution style. The same note is found on the dashboard, held in place by a knife. The city reacts with a strange mix of fear and exhilaration. For the first time, the predators are being preyed upon. The people of the Narrows, long abandoned by the GCPD, start leaving out bowls of food and water on their fire escapes, offerings to their new, brutal guardian angel. The media, of course, paints him as a monster, a new headline-grabbing psychopath to sell papers. The Gotham Watchman, vigilante, or vicious killer screams the front page of the Gazette. Harvey Dent publicly denounces him, calling him a symptom of the disease, not the cure. We cannot combat lawlessness with more lawlessness, he declares at a press conference, his voice ringing with conviction. The moment we surrender the rule of law is the moment we become the very thing we fight. But in private, even he feels a sliver of dark satisfaction. The men being taken off the board are men his laws couldn't touch. James Gordon is torn. He's a cop. His job is to uphold the law, all of it. He's supposed to be hunting this watchman. But every time he visits one of the watchman's crime scenes, he feels a grudging respect. The victims are, without exception, human garbage, men who have raped, murdered, and extorted their way through life. The watchman is efficient. He's cleaning up the city in a way the GCPD never could. Bullock, naturally, is all for it.
Guy's doing her job for us, Jimmy. He says, chomping on a cigar as they survey another scene, a loan shark nailed to the door of his own office. Saves the taxpayers the cost of a trial. I say we send him a fruit basket. Gordon can't bring himself to agree. He sees the bigger picture. The watchman isn't a scalpel removing a cancer. He's a sledgehammer, smashing everything. He's dragging the city further into the abyss, teaching it that the only answer to violence is more violence. The line between justice and vengeance, a line Gordon has walked his entire career, is being completely erased. He begins his investigation, but it's like chasing a ghost. The watchman leaves no fingerprints, no witnesses who will talk. He knows police procedure. He knows how to disappear. Gordon feels like he's hunting a darker version of himself, a man who took the same path of frustration and just kept walking until he fell off the edge. Up in his penthouse, Bruce Wayne reads about the Watchman. He sees the crime scene photos in the paper, the brutal, bloody work of this new phantom, and it disgusts him. This isn't justice, it's butchery. It's the same savage violence that took his parents. Yet, there is another feeling, something deeper and more shameful, a flicker of understanding. The Watchman is acting on the rage that Bruce has kept locked away in his heart for 2 decades. He is doing what Bruce, in his darkest, most secret moments, has dreamed of doing. He feels a pull, a terrifying kinship with this killer. Alfred sees it in his eyes. He finds Bruce one night in the study, a decanter of brandy nearly empty, staring at a framed photograph of his parents. "This butcher," Bruce slurs, his voice thick with alcohol and self-loathing. He thinks he's cleaning the streets. He's just making them bloodier. Alfred places a gentle hand on his shoulder. "Perhaps, Master Bruce, but he is doing something. He has chosen a path. It is a dark one, to be sure, but it is a path nonetheless. You, sir, have been standing at a crossroads for 20 years. The words hit Bruce harder than a physical blow. He pushes Alfred's hand away and stands, unsteady on his feet. He looks at his reflection in the dark glass of the window. He sees a pale, haunted face. The face of a man who has done nothing with his life but grieve. He thinks of his father, a doctor, a healer, who spent his life trying to save the city. He thinks of his mother, a philanthropist who fought poverty and despair with every ounce of her being. They built things. They healed. All he has done is mourn. A new resolve, cold and fragile, begins to form amidst the alcoholic haze. He can't be a brute like the Watchman, but he can't do nothing anymore. He will fight back, but he will do it the Wayne way, not with fists, but with fortune. He starts the Wayne Foundation, a massive philanthropic endeavor aimed at rebuilding the city from the ground up. He pours billions into social programs, urban renewal projects in the Narrows, job training for ex-convicts, new equipment
for the underfunded hospitals and orphanages. It's a declaration of war, not on crime, but on the conditions that breed it. For a while, it seems to work. The headlines change. The city has a new savior, a reclusive billionaire who is finally stepping into his father's shoes. Harvey Dent is thrilled, seeing a powerful new ally in his war. He and Bruce meet, two sides of the same coin, one fighting in the courts, the other on the streets, albeit with checkbooks instead of weapons. But Gotham is a stubborn disease. Pouring money into it is like pouring sand into the ocean.
The mob sees the Wayne Foundation's projects not as a threat, but as a new revenue stream. Falcone and Maroney muscle their way into the construction contracts. Cobblepot's unions control the labor. The money is siphoned off, feeding the very corruption it was meant to starve. Bruce's war of economics is a failure. He's just making the rich criminals richer. The realization is a slow, creeping poison. He's trying to put out a forest fire with a water pistol. The city doesn't need a philanthropist, it needs something else. It needs a miracle. The Watchman's War, however, is far from a failure. His campaign of terror is brutally effective. Sal Maroney's operation begins to crumble. His top lieutenants are either dead or have fled the city. His soldiers are terrified, refusing to work the streets at night. The balance of power is shifting. And Oswald Cobblepot, ever the opportunist, takes full advantage. He approaches the terrified remnants of the Maroney family not with a gun, but with a business proposal. He offers them protection, organization, a place under his expanding umbrella. In a single, bloodless coup, he absorbs his rival's entire empire. Carmine Falcone, the old Roman, finally sees the threat he's been ignoring. This isn't the waddling errand boy he once knew. This is a king, a pretender to his throne. The Cold War between them turns hot. The streets of Gotham become a battlefield. Car bombs, drive-by shootings, public executions. The violence is no longer confined to the shadows. It spills out into the daylight. The city is caught in the crossfire. And the Watchman is in the middle of it all, a wild card, a force of pure chaos, hitting both sides with equal, savage impartiality. James Gordon is at his wit's end. The city is tearing itself apart. His department is useless, a collection of cowards and crooks. He's working around the clock, fueled by caffeine and rage, chasing shadows. The Watchman, Falcone, Cobblepot, they're all just different heads of the same monster. He's losing. He knows it. His apartment is empty. The only sign of his family, a faded picture of his daughter, Barbara, on his nightstand. He looks at her smiling face, and it's like a knife in his gut. What kind of world is he leaving for her? What kind of man has he become? One night, sitting in his car, watching the rain streak down the windshield, he makes a decision. A reckless, desperate, and very Gordon-like decision. If he can't save the city, he'll save his own soul. He's gonna go after the corruption inside the GCPD. He's gonna burn it all down, even if he goes down with it. He starts digging quietly, methodically. He pulls old files, follows money trails,
leans on the few cops he knows he can trust. He's building a case against his own brothers in blue, a case that leads all the way to the top, to the police commissioner himself, a man who's been on Falcone's payroll for 15 years. He's signing his own death warrant, and he knows it. The city's soul, already stretched taut, finally snaps. It happens not with a bang, but with a joke, a bad joke. In a dingy, half-empty comedy club in the Bowery, a man takes the stage. He's thin, gaunt, with a shock of greasy green hair, a side effect of a very bad night at a chemical plant months ago. His skin is bleached a chalky white. His lips are pulled back in a permanent, horrifying grin. He had tried to be a comedian, but the world was the one telling the jokes, and they were all on him. His wife had left him. He couldn't hold a job. He was a failure. One bad day was all it took. One final push over the edge. Now he sees the punchline. The beautiful, hilarious, liberating punchline. Nothing matters. Life is a chaotic, meaningless, and ultimately fatal joke. And he is its prophet. He doesn't tell jokes about airplane food or his mother-in-law. He pulls a gun from his pocket and shoots a man in the front row who isn't laughing. The room erupts in panic. People scream, scramble, trample each other to get to the exits. The man on stage just stands there, a wide, genuine smile on his face, a sound bubbling up from his chest, a high, unhinged, rattling laugh that seems to echo the city's own madness. He doesn't have a name yet. He's just a man who has embraced the abyss. He's the spirit of Gotham given flesh, a virus of nihilism waiting to infect the entire city.
He doesn't want money or power. He wants to prove his point. His acts of performance art become citywide events. He poisons the city's water supply with a chemical that causes uncontrollable, fatal laughter. He hijacks television broadcasts, his grinning face appearing on every screen, telling the citizens of Gotham that their lives are a meaningless punchline, and the only sane response is to embrace the madness. He gains followers, not thugs for hire, but disciples, disenfranchised, hopeless people who are drawn to his message of pure anarchy. They don't wear uniforms. They just wear smiles, crudely painted on their faces, and they carry out his chaotic will. They are everywhere and nowhere. They are the new face of fear in Gotham, a fear that doesn't want to rule you, but to set you free in the worst possible way. This new, unpredictable chaos is the final straw for Harvey Dent. His carefully constructed world of law and order is being mocked, dismantled by a madman with a punchline. The pressure on him is immense. The public wants answers. The mayor wants results. His own psyche, the one he keeps in check with the flip of a coin, is beginning to fray at the edges. One evening, he's leaving the courthouse, arguing on his phone with Gordon about the lack of progress in the Joker case, as the media has dubbed the laughing killer. He's not paying attention. He doesn't see the car speeding towards him. He doesn't see the men inside, Oswald Cobblepot's men, sent not for him, but for Gordon, who was supposed to be leaving with him. Cobblepot had found out about Gordon's internal investigation, and the Penguin does not tolerate rats. There's a screech of tires, a hail of gunfire. Gordon, a few steps behind, shoves Dent to the ground, trying to shield him, but it's too late. A crate of industrial acid, part of a nearby construction site, is hit by the stray bullets. It tips, falls and its contents splash across the side of Harvey Dent's face. His scream is a sound of pure, unadulterated agony, a sound that cuts through the noise of the city. He clutches his face, the smell of burning flesh filling the air. Gordon stares in horror at what was once the handsome face of Gotham's white knight. One side is untouched, perfect. The other is a melted, raw, hideous ruin. In that moment, something inside Harvey Dent breaks. The carefully balanced scale of justice in his mind shatters into a million pieces. He looks at Gordon, his one good eye wide with a terrible new clarity. He reaches into his pocket, his hand shaking, and pulls out the two-headed coin. He looks at it. It's been scorched and blackened on one side by the acid. Perfect. It's finally perfect. The world isn't black and white. It isn't good versus evil. It's just chance. Heads or tails. Live or die. The White Knight is dead. Two-Face is born. The news of Dent's disfigurement and subsequent psychotic break sends a shockwave through the city. The last bastion of hope is fallen. Gotham is now a three-way war zone. Oswald Cobblepot's organized crime empire controls the economy and the politicians. The Joker's anarchic movement terrorizes the populace with random acts of violence. And Two-Face begins his own reign of terror, a force of arbitrary judgment, using his coin to decide the fate of criminals and innocents alike. He sets himself up as the ultimate judge, jury, and executioner in a city that has lost all three. And in the middle of it all, the Watchman continues his lonely, brutal crusade. A monster hunting monsters. His war now having more targets than he could ever have imagined. He's become a legend, a boogeyman, but he's just one man against an army of demons. The chaos finally reaches the gates of Wayne Manor. Bruce has become even more of a recluse, watching the city he tried to save with money burn on his wall of television screens. He sees Dent's ruined face, hears the Joker's insane laughter, reads the mounting body count from Cobblepot's war. His failure is absolute. It's broadcast in high definition, 24 hours a day. One night, a group of the Joker's followers, high on nihilism and cheap drugs, decide it would be funny to storm the home of the city's richest man. They breach the walls, a giggling, smiling mob, and descend upon the manor. Alfred, ever the loyal soldier, tries to hold them off, to give Bruce time to escape to the panic room. He's an old man. He stands his ground with a fireplace poker, but he is overwhelmed. Bruce watches on a security monitor as the smiling thugs beat his only family, his only friend to the ground, their laughter echoing through the halls of his home. Something inside him, something that has been dormant for 20 years, finally awakens. Not reason, not hope. Pure primal rage. He doesn't think, he acts. He runs from the panic room, not to escape, but to fight. He's not a trained martial artist, he's not a detective, he's just a man, fueled by a lifetime of repressed fury. He grabs the heavy bust of his father from a pedestal and uses it as a weapon.
He fights with a savage desperation that shocks the intruders. He breaks bones. He screams with a raw, animalistic fury. He is a whirlwind of violence. He drives them out of his home, chasing them across the lawn, not stopping until they have vanished into the night. He stands there, breathing heavily, his knuckles bloody, his suit torn. He looks back at the manor and sees Alfred, lying motionless on the marble floor. Alfred survives, but he will never be the same, and neither will Bruce. As he sits by Alfred's hospital bed, the truth finally becomes clear to him. His money failed, his name failed. The only thing that worked, the only thing that made a difference was the fear he saw in those men's eyes when he, one man, fought back like a cornered animal. The city doesn't need a philanthropist. It needs a symbol. It needs something to be afraid of. The idea, the one that has been a ghost in his mind for years, finally takes shape. He returns to the manor, walks to the study, and places his hand on the grandfather clock. He opens the secret passage and descends into the darkness, into the caves beneath his home. The bats, disturbed by his presence, swarm around him, a living cloak of darkness. He doesn't flinch. For the first time, he feels like he is home. He will use his fortune, his mind, his rage. He will become a weapon. He will become a creature of the night. He will become a bat. But he's starting too late. The city isn't just sick anymore. It's terminal. He isn't a surgeon arriving to save a patient. He's a man arriving at a funeral 20 years too late. He can't inspire hope now. The city has forgotten what that feels like. All he can do is inspire fear. He begins his work. He designs a suit, forges weapons, pushes his body to its absolute limit. He becomes the shadow that the city has been lacking. His first appearance is explosive. He descends upon a meeting between Cobblepot's lieutenants, a black specter of vengeance. He moves with a speed and brutality that no one can comprehend. He breaks them, dismantles them, leaves them tied up for a police force that is too scared to even respond to the call. The rumors start immediately. A demon, a monster, a giant bat. James Gordon, now captain of a broken and bleeding police department, hears the stories. He doesn't know what to believe, but for the first time in a long time, he feels a sliver of something that isn't despair, but the Batman, as he comes to be called, is just one man. He can stop a drug deal. He can terrorize a room full of mobsters. But he can't be everywhere. He can't stop the Joker from blowing up a hospital just to prove a point. He can't stop Two-Face from executing a busload of people based on the flip of a coin. He can't undo the decades of decay that have rotted the city to its core. He is a response
to the symptoms, not a cure for the disease. His presence doesn't unite the city. It just adds another predator to the jungle, another king to the battlefield. The criminals, once they get over their initial fear, adapt. They become more extreme, more theatrical, to compete for attention in a city that now has a costumed devil in its midst. The Batman's arrival doesn't elevate Gotham. It just provides a new, more interesting opponent for its monsters.
He tries to forge an alliance with Gordon, the one good man he can find. They meet on the roof of the GCPD, a new signal, a bat in the sky slicing through the perpetual gloom. But Gordon is old now, tired. He's seen too much. He looks at this man in the cape and cowl, and he doesn't see a savior. He sees another mask, another promise that will probably be broken. "You're declaring a war you can't win," Gordon tells him, his voice gravelly with exhaustion. "This city, it's too far gone. You can't save it. All you can do is get buried with it." The Batman stands there, a black silhouette against the sickly yellow sky. "Then I'll get buried with it," he rasps, his voice a low growl. But even he can feel the futility of it. He is a king with no subjects, a general with no army. He is a perfect, brilliant, terrifying idea that arrived long after the battle was already lost. Our story, my friends, doesn't have a happy ending. There is no victory. There is only the long, slow, grinding decay. Bruce Wayne spends the rest of his life fighting his lonely war. He becomes a legend, a myth whispered by criminals and citizens alike. But he never saves Gotham. He never restores it to any semblance of its former self. He just holds a small, bloody piece of it back from the brink, a constant, nightly struggle that he can never truly win. He saves individuals, he stops some atrocities, but he never stops the rot. The Joker is never truly defeated because he's an idea, and you can't punch an idea. Two-Face continues his coin flip justice, a permanent monument to the failure of the city's legal system. The Penguin becomes a legitimate businessman, his criminal empire so vast and intertwined with the city's infrastructure that he is untouchable. He sits on the board of Wayne Enterprises, a wolf in the sheep pen, and Bruce is powerless to stop him. James Gordon eventually retires, a broken but unbent man. He moves away to a quiet suburb where he can see the stars at night and watch his daughter grow up from a safe distance. He never stops looking over his shoulder. He never stops having the nightmares. Bruce Wayne, the man, dies alone. Alfred passes away years before him, and Bruce never forms another human connection. His life is the mission. His only companions are the ghosts of his parents and the bats in his cave. He dies as the Batman, old and scarred, in a final brutal confrontation with a new generation of supercriminal, leaving no heir, no successor. His death leaves a vacuum, and the city, which had been held in a state of violent, chaotic equilibrium by his presence, finally, completely collapses. And so, we are left with a chilling thought. The tragedy of this Gotham isn't that it was filled with monsters. It's that it was empty of a myth. It didn't just need a man to fight the crime in its streets. It needed an idea to fight the despair in its heart. It needed a symbol, a dark protector, to prove that not all the shadows were to be feared,
The simple, tragic truth is that one boy's promise, made in an alleyway 20 years too late, wasn't enough. The absence of Batman for those crucial years wasn't just a detail, it was a cancer. It allowed the city's soul to wither and die long before a man in a cape ever took to the skies. He wasn't the beginning of Gotham's story, he was its postscript, a final, desperate, and ultimately futile epitaph for a city that was already in its grave. The shadows grow long now. The story is over. A grim fairy tale for a grim world. I hope it has given you something to ponder as you drift off. Something to hold on to in the quiet hours of the night. Sleep well, my friends. And remember, even in the darkest city, a single light, however small, however late, still makes a difference, even if it can't win the war. I'll be back with another story, another whisper in the dark. Until then, good night.